Saving starts with internet and wireless from Xfinity. Because when you get Xfinity Internet and add mobile, you can save up to $400 a year on wireless. Enjoy fast, reliable internet at home and nationwide 5G on the go, included at no extra cost. Get Xfinity Internet and mobile together and ask how to get an eligible 5G phone on us. And for a limited time, $300 back. Don't miss out. Go to Xfinity.com/start saving. Call 1-800-XFINITY or visit a store today. Restrictions apply. Savings based on optimized pricing. Actual savings may vary.
All right, so week 1 in the books for Nebraska fall camp. They got 2 more practices this weekend, including a scrimmage. With more on the first week takeaways, we say hello to our friend Michael Brunson, Husker 24/7 Sports. Brunsy, first of all, did you take part in National IPA Day yesterday?
I didn't even know that was the day yesterday, but I'm glad that I took part, just in case.
What'd you go with?
I went with the hazy IPA from Zipline down here in Lincoln.
Okay, I did a zip line as well. I did Cloud Lifter yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, it was good.
It's all good.
Yeah. It got a little warm though because I was the idiot who cracked one open right before it was bedtime for the kid. So by the time I got done with it, I finished the second half and I was like, oh geez. But don't worry, I still took it down. I'm not going to waste it, but yeah, wasn't the ideal National IPA Day for me.
You're better than me. I usually just end up falling asleep at that point. So at least you got the second half of the beer.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, God, I forgot to drink that. Well, not going to put that back in the fridge.
Goes well with the coffee.
Oh, there you go. I like that. First week in the books. What's some of your bigger takeaways as far as Nebraska and the things they're trying to get established here early on in fall camp?
Yeah, it's been just kind of a quiet, workmanlike fall camp. I mean, I guess that's a takeaway right off the top is that, you're not hearing much chest thumping. I think that, you're getting a few guys talked up, but for the most part, they're just kind of keeping their heads down and going to work. I think big news from this week, certainly Marquise Stepp and his being farther ahead than what they thought at this point, I think is definitely good news for a position battle that has to get figured out, and also whoever wins that needs to kind of run with it. And the fact that you have a USC transfer, a guy that seems to have learned the offense faster than maybe what they were even expecting, that's good news. I continue to believe that Nebraska is going to need 2 or 3 guys to kind of share the load at running back, but Marquise Stepp is a big piece of that, just given his experience. So I thought, the coaching staff kind of being surprised at where he's at, that's good news.
Scott Frost, I know, talking about even some of those position battles and getting close to a depth chart, having a better idea of the guys they think are going to kind of emerge. Were you surprised to hear that just as early as 1 weekend?
Not really. I mean, so with the super seniors coming back on defense and, guys on offense, especially on the line positions, I don't think there's a ton of mystery about who's going to end up where there. I mean, I think, if you kind of sit down and kind of start putting names down, I feel like you could get pretty close to a complete 2 deep at this point and be pretty accurate with it. You've got the running back picture to kind of clear up. You've got to figure out who your kickoff specialist and who your punter is going to be. But for the most part, I think a lot of the starting jobs are settled, and I think you could, get into the backups too pretty easily. So I think that speaks to the fact that you have veterans in some spots, and you also have young guys that have been around the program, played a little bit too in other spots. So that's I guess I wasn't too surprised that he said that.
The one thing that I wasn't surprised is when he was talking about the quarterbacks, and I don't know if that was you or somebody else who had said if is that how it might shake out as far as the depth chart, that you'll have one of those guys established. And he kind of responded, it could be, the backup could be one guy one week and it could be another guy the other week. I mean, I don't think I was surprised because I just think that lack of experience, I mean, especially for us who don't get a chance to see these guys every day, it's a mystery. But I even think to some extent it's kind of a mystery to this coaching staff.
Yeah, well, and you have to remember, too, I mean, even though Logan Smothers is the older player, it's not like he got a ton of experience to go off of. I mean,
Right.
Sure, an extra time to learn the offense, but for the most part, he's pretty even with Heinrich Haarberg. So I do think that's going to take some time to sort itself out. I'm sure that the coaches know, if something happens to Adrian Martinez, they'll know who's going to go in there. But I don't know if it's going to be a hugely formal thing about, this is our backup and the backup that we're going to roll with every week. So not particularly surprising there either.
Defensively, and hearing Eric Chinander and Mike Dawson, Barrett Ruud, and the coaches kind of talking about that group, when you say kind of business as usual, that's really kind of the tone I got with that side of the football. And I, again, probably chalk this one up in the not surprise category. That was especially the side of the football that I didn't know if we'd get a lot of intel there.
Well, yeah, I mean, when you have that many returning veterans, there's not a lot different, I guess. I mean, that's the best way I could kind of put it is, I thought Eric Chinander saying that they're, past the addition and on to calculus now. I think that's reflective of where you would be with that kind of a veteran group. So, I think for me, the biggest thing is how are you going to kind of mix in guys that in a normal year would probably be your starters? I mean, a guy like Miles Farmer, I think is going to be a fantastic player in that secondary. I think he's going to need to have some snaps now and find a role for him. I don't know what that looks like, but I mean, maybe that allows you as a defensive coordinator and as a defensive play caller to get a little bit creative, play matchups a little bit more. So yeah, I mean, and it's funny too, when you start seeing the guys on the practice field, which we got to see on Wednesday, it's pretty remarkable the depth that they have at spots, especially defensive line, linebacker. I mean, when you compare where they're at linebacker, especially inside linebacker, compared to 2 or 3 years ago, it's like a completely different roster, and that's a good thing.
Talking to Michael Bruns of Husker 24/7 Sports here on AM 590. Brunsy, speaking of what you had a chance to observe with your own eyes, I know there were kind of different takeaways depending on who you talked to, whether it was just kind of Adrian's mechanics. I even saw a lot of praise, even from the Big Ten Network guys yesterday on the tight end duo between Vokolek and Austin Allen. What were some of the things that you observed, at practice?
Yeah, I was actually on the end with without the quarterbacks, so I didn't see a ton of Adrian Martinez, but just being able to kind of see how he's reshaped his body. I mean, I think that's a noteworthy thing. If they're going to kind of rely on him to run less, which I think is the idea, but maybe be a little bit more efficient when he does run, I think he's kind of set himself up to do that with the work he's done in the off season. We'll see, decision making and all that other stuff once the lights come on. But I think he's to the point now where he's put himself in a pretty good spot to have a strong year. We'll just kind of see if that matches up on the field. I guess that's kind of always been the question with him the last couple of years. But definitely, I think that he's starting the year in a good spot in terms of where he's at mentally and also physically too, which for him is such a big piece of it.
What about the offensive line too? And we talk about just size. We're hearing a lot about Nebraska and some of those key spots, defensive line, offensive line, physically finally looking like a Big Ten squad. Have you noticed a change with the lines on both sides of the football?
Yeah, I mean, defensive line, I actually spent quite a bit of my time down around the defense. And, when you see, Damian Daniels now compared to where he was 2 years ago, I mean, the conversation around him is always, how many plays can he actually play? Yeah. Now he looks like a completely different player. He's really put in the work. I mean, Ben Stille's, close to 300 pounds, and looks like a sixth-tier player. And then, I mean, even, the young guys, I mean, you've got Jalen Weaver, who turned 18 a couple days ago, and He's 6'7", over 300 pounds. Ruquan Buckley is huge too. They really have kind of reshaped the way that they've recruited guys at that position, and it looks like a group that can hold up to offensive lines from Wisconsin and Iowa and some of the bigger groups in the Big Ten, which you have to be able to do. We'll see if they can stop the run, but certainly the eye test and off the bus, they look the part.
I know you guys also had a chance to see a little bit of some special teams coordination when you got there, and it does seem, and that was another part of the conversations this week, seems like that is not only a huge point of emphasis, but it seems like a lot of coaches are kind of involved in helping out.
Yeah, they have been. I mean, that's kind of the way that they've always kind of done things, with different assistant coaches kind of having their little fiefdoms of what they oversee with special teams. But I think, kind of having somebody like Mike Dawson, who's a full-time assistant, to kind of be the head of the spear, if you will, on organizing things, on making sure that reps get done, I think has been really important. I think he was the right guy for it. He's got the background in special teams. I don't think he's going to be over there, teaching Connor Culp how to kick by any means. Yeah. But the things they have to figure out. They have to figure out who your punter is going to be. You need somebody that can bang it through the back of the end zone on kickoff. And you just need to set a tone, I think, of how important that area of the field is to this team. And I think guys, after having not gone to a bowl the last 3 years, they understand the importance of special teams and how it can lose you games. So, the coverage units having more depth at linebacker and at defensive back generally equates to better coverage. We'll see if that happens. But, just personnel-wise, the biggest thing when you just look into the stats is the number of kickoffs that Nebraska's had to defend relative to other Big Ten teams is just crazy, the difference. And if they can find somebody that can get it through the back of the end zone with regularity, that's going to make that whole group and Mike Dawson look a heck of a lot better.
Brunsey, before I let you go, I know that personnel-wise, Jared Lambrecht is stepping away, taking a different job. He kind of the chief of staff of this group. What were, for folks who maybe don't know his exact role and what Nebraska is losing, what can you say about that?
Yeah, that role is kind of a catch-all for everything. He's kind of Scott Frost's right-hand man. Does a lot of organization. When Nebraska was doing, kind of trying to figure out how to make the COVID protocols work last spring. I mean, he was the guy that was spearheading all that, and so he definitely was involved in a lot of things in the program, and that role, whether you call it chief of staff or director of player operations or whatever you want to call it, that's a really important person within the program, not necessarily, the outward field stuff on Saturdays, but just kind of making everything go. So that's kind of what he was in charge of handling. But it sounds like they've got somebody else in place, Andrew Sims, who had worked under Jared Lambrecht, and they're going to add some assistance with him. But that's a really important role in any college program. Is kind of that guy that is the manager for almost everything that kind of comes to the door for a football program.
Brunsey, I know no media availability this weekend, but sounds like practice tomorrow, then a potential scrimmage on Sunday before the next day off?
Yeah, I think that's the plan, kind of a lighter scrimmage and then maybe a heavier scrimmage down the road. But at least media availability-wise, I don't think we get media availability till Tuesday next week.
All right, so we'll see what comes out of week number 2 as we kick that off next week or this weekend or however you're really – I guess it would be technically this weekend. Practice number 8 tomorrow. So there you go. All right, Brunsey, appreciate you coming on, man. Have a great weekend.
Thanks, Nick. Take care.
All right, when we come back, the huge news for Nebraska volleyball. Lauren Stivrins is coming back. That roster remains loaded. And what does that do for Nebraska's chances of making a serious run at a national championship? We discuss next.